Okay, the War Within beta has been absolutely legendary so far. Hero talents, theory crafting, fantastic new dungeons, and with these new dungeons comes, of course, a brand new season of Mythic Plus and a whole new meta to explore. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the channel. My name is Sky, and today we're going to be talking about the strongest DPS specs in the War Within beta right now, why they're dominating, and what makes them so great individually. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you want to see more War Within content. Starting off with what I think is the strongest DPS spec in the game right now, the Arcane Mage. And believe me, we were just as surprised as you with what used to be the most complicated spec in the game. It has been reworked and is back and better than ever. In my opinion, this goes down as the best overall DPS spec through the beta. The rotation is thankfully simplified. You're constantly pumping out arcane barrages and proccing free arcane orbs and then just spam more arcane barrages. It is just the best the spec has ever felt, man. There's also a talent that allows your arcane missiles to grant you arcane charges, which takes away that clunky feeling of having to spam arcane explosion or arcane blast to generate charges. And then when you have your cooldowns ready, you pair your Touch of the Magi with arcane surge and combine it into Aether attunement windows, which, if you don't know, it allows your arcane missiles to hit 4 enemies at the same time. It allows you to just melt packs all on your own, man. And the best thing about this class is that it's not reliant on heavy, cooldown usage abilities to be able to deal its damage. It can deal its damage all on its own, just through its basic rotation. Then you talk about the hero talent tree design with the Spellslinger tree. It fits perfect with the class design. It doesn't impede on the rotation in a negative way. It deals out a ton of passive damage, shooting out with just looks like a machine gun of arcane splinters, and combine that with all your other abilities. It's just very, very satisfying as an arcane mage. If you're looking for a fun, nuclear damage dealing caster that's on the rise, Arcane Mage has to be your #1 on this list. It's got everything you'd want in a class spec and more. Moving on now to the next specialization, the Unholy Death Knight. And I know this isn't coming as a big surprise to most if you've been playing the beta, but it's all for a very good reason. Even post-nerf, the Army of the Dead Commander is back and looking like a very dominant melee DPS spec in the War Within. One of the greatest things about this class is actually how simple it is after you learn the basics. And boy, once you do, your AoE damage is going to shock just about everyone in the party. You apply your, virulent plagues and diseases on your targets while keeping down your death and decay, and then you just start working on spreading your festering wounds around. And then, like a hurricane, you're ready to pop some cooldowns by literally spam popping AoE all of your festering wounds, whether it be with your Sand Lane Tree or just casually, and just using your Epidemic, leaving you just speechless. Well, how awesome the sound design is, how beefy your class is, how much damage you deal just chunking them down. I mean, it is so satisfying. You gotta know, though, the class did recently just get nerfed. And even after the nerfs, I actually prefer how the Rider of the Apocalypse talent tree feels for a variety of reasons. But if you're looking for a class that isn't too complicated and the hero talent tree is actually really impactful, the Unholy Death Knight has got to be the way to go for you. I was absolutely shocked by how impactful both of the hero talent trees were. And don't get me wrong, the Riders of the Apocalypse I think is really cool and I think it has its place, but I think it's slightly worse than the Sand Lane talent tree. But either way, it's just a matter of preference at that point. So not only is there some build variety when it comes to the spec, I'm really excited to see, maybe some minion builds come out in the future. Unholy Death Knight is a phenomenal class. Now, typically in the beginning of an expansion, when you're making a list on top damaging classes, there's usually no way you don't bring up the Windwalker Monk, and it seems like history is repeating itself yet again. Windwalker Monk recently had their talent tree completely redesigned, and I gotta tell you, it's a lot better than it was before, and there's a lot of flexibility when it comes to the type of build that you'd want to create now. Do you want to have a build meant for AoE blackout kicks? You can have that. Do you want to have a build focused on Fist of Fury and Rising Sun Kick? You can have that as well. They even have, AoE Crackling Jade Lightning builds out there that feel very satisfying to use as a Windwalker Monk. There are some moments when you pop all your cooldowns, you can hit, 2 million DPS in Mythic Dungeons, and single target damage, of course, they're doing quite well, but there are some points where things feel a tad bit slow, but it makes up for it when you have all your cooldowns ready to go. When it comes to raiding in the Mythic Plus, this class is always going to have its time to shine. I mean, the Celestial Hero talent tree brings you a really solid ability with the Celestial Conduit ability that hits like a Mack truck, and it's literally just You cast it, you move on with your day. After that, it summons a bunch of Celestials that really enhance your gameplay and buff you greatly, and then it just makes everything in your rotation just feel so much better. I I love the fact that Fist of Fury is actually hitting like a Mack truck now. I love the integration of the new AoE blackout kicks. That really takes the spec to the next level in terms of raw damage. So if you're looking for a fast-paced mobile DPS spec that has like a ton of mobility and theory crafting potential, the Windwalker Monk is definitely a solid choice heading into the War Within. And not only that, you also have a, tanking spec as well as healing spec if you like versatility in that department as well. And then coming up after Monk, we have the Fire Mage. And listen to me very carefully, ladies and gentlemen. You cannot hate me for putting another mage spec on this list. This class is so well designed right now because if you didn't know, Fire Mage has been lighting up the War Within beta, and that's even after the nerfs, cutting off about like 25% of their damage. I'm not gonna lie, this spec does have its complications, and if you don't know how to play it properly, it's probably gonna show and it's gonna take some time. But if you do know what you're doing and you know how to play this class, you're going to be destroying mobs and just exploding them in a matter of a couple seconds. You will be in combustion most of the time, which means you're gonna be critting a lot, and you will literally never have to cast an ability. Really, again, you're just spamming Fire Blast, Phoenix Flames, pumping out non-stop Pyroblast and Flame Strikes, and then, those Pyroblasts turn into living bombs, which then explode, spreading more living bombs, and then it just causes what feels like an epidemic of explosions and insane visuals that really just feels like you're a fire mage, like burning enemies alive. When it comes to the Frostfire hero talent tree, it works like really, really well with the spec. It's like perfect harmony with fire because there used to be these windows where you would have to cast a couple fireballs or scorches to sort of, build up your crit procs, but that is not the case anymore. As you're going through your normal rotation, you'll occasionally get a proc that shoots out your instant Frostfire bolt, and then it can crit for almost like 1,000,000 damage and explode to nearby enemies for like 80% of that. And then since it is a fire ability, you can use it during combustion to make it automatically crit and apply living bombs. It is absolutely nasty. It actually makes me laugh so hard how much fun this spec actually is because the developers really, really just perfected it and knocked it out of the park. If you're a player that can think ahead and do a rotation properly, even if it's a little bit advanced, the Frostfire Mage has by far one of the most fun and impactful, strong rotations in the game that I've seen so far. It's a fantastic choice to come out and head into the War Within launch. Moving on to another melee DPS, we have the big surprise, the Retribution Paladin. And this class probably has the most impactful hero talent tree out of any other class, I would say. I'm going to say it plain and simple. They cleaned up Retribution Paladin very well, and they really, really did well with this talent tree. What used to be like an overstuffed like 8-9 button rotation is now condensed, and it feels so much better now. You have your Crusader Strikes going off passively on your basic attacks. You have your Consecrations going off passively on your Blade of Justice. Your Judgment and Blade of Justice abilities are AoE and hit like 4 or 5 targets at a time. And what feels so good in their rotation is that whenever you use Wake of Ashes, it pops your wings for you and you go to town on the damage meters. You hit your Wake of Ashes on everybody and apply a giant damage over time effect, and then you follow it up with your brand new hero talent, the Hammer of Light, that can just crit for like 2.1, 2.2 million damage in one swing. It is so satisfying, and it's one of the most satisfying hero talent tree abilities that I've seen on the beta so far. This class has become very, very simple, very straightforward, and yet so effective that anybody can use it. You have a ton of AoE damage, amazing utility, phenomenal defensives. I would say the only minor problem is that their single target DPS is lacking a little bit compared to the other classes, but they do make up for it with everything else the Ret Paladin brings. A very simple class, tons of AoE damage, fantastic rotation, very, very solid melee DPS heading into the War Within that anyone would enjoy playing. Moving on to our next spec that was not expected to be on this list is the Master of Darkness, the Affliction Warlock. A lot of players in the community didn't really like the playstyle of Affliction over the last couple expansions, but with the new redesigned talent trees, it's been nothing but a huge upgrade to how fluid the spec feels now. Spells tying together like Siphon Life and Corruption, instant Shadowbolt volleys becoming one of your main fillers, and of course, to top it all off, your Malefic Rapture making your AoE damage some of the best it's ever been. When it comes to the hero talent trees, you have your Hellcaller talent tree that allows you to use your Seed of Corruption to spread your brand new upgraded Corruption, which is now called Wither, and pairing that with all your other damage over time effects, your Malefic Rapture, your damage is just disgusting in terms of AoE, and it really, really performs well in Mythic Plus. One downside I will admit is when you are spec'd into an AoE-focused build on Affliction Lock, you do lack a bit of single target damage, but God forbid there are a few adds that end up spawning in the fight, you'll pick back up in terms of damage as you get your dots rolling. I think overall Warlock is one of the safest classes in the game heading into War Within, and that is one of the reasons why we put them on this list, as all 3 specs are really performing well. But Affliction does look like to be taking the edge as of right now, and it would be an absolute blast to play if you love range caster DPS. Moving on now to the next obvious class, if you've been playing the War Within beta, the brand new reworked Survival Hunter. And yes, it's no surprise that this class is taking the final spot on this list, and it's all for really good reason. The rotation, which was once bloated and full of just too many buttons and it just felt like a chore to play, has now become condensed and feels like butter. Doing things like simplifying the wildfire infusion mechanic, removing serpent sting, and overall just cleaning up the rotation has made this spec just a joy to play since the rework. Between the interactions of your butchery, resetting your wildfire bombs, then you try to spam your, #1 damaging ability, which is your explosive shot now, and then you top it all off with your massive, Fury of the Eagle windows in AoE. The class is just destroying the meters, and we haven't even spoke about the best part. You have your Sentinel hero talent tree that is so easy to just pick up and use that doesn't impede on your rotation at all like some of the other hero talent trees out there. The ability has the chance to proc off of every attack that you use, and combining that with the Starfall effect on the wildfire bombs every so often, it literally becomes your #1 damaging ability, and you don't have to change anything about your rotation, which makes it that much easier for somebody to just pick it up and give it a try for yourself. There are some points in Mythic Plus where Lance has everything lined up and running, and he just gets so lucky with some explosive shots, and he can pull like over 2.1, 2.2 million DPS and not even bat an eye. It is absolutely insane. Hunter is looking fantastic in the War Within so far, and with these new redesigned talent trees, Survival specifically is crushing the Mythic Plus damage meters right now, and it's very, very good heading into this expansion, giving us every reason to bring it on this list. But okay, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to wrap up today's video. There are a lot of really good classes out there that are just dominating compared to some of the other ones. Remember, of course, there are constantly going to be class changes and updates, so we will be bringing you all updated videos as we get closer to launch day. What class do you all plan on maining come the War Within? Is it the same old class you've been playing? Or is it going to be something brand new? Let us know in the comment section below. Like always, ladies and gentlemen, hope you have an amazing day. Be safe. And until the very end, my name is Sky from the Comeback Kids. I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.